Chapter 2517 Enemies 2. Chapter 2517 Enemies 2. Chaoga said, "We're in dash." But Feng Wu dragged her through the portal. Chaoga glared at her, wondering why they had to put up with these people. Feng Wu glanced at her. Chaoga needed to grow up. Right now, she would explode at the slightest provocation, which wasn't a good thing. She had to control her temper. Otherwise, it would become her downfall one day. In the tiny space inside the portal, Gu Xingyuan glared at Feng Wu. If looks could kill, she would already be dead. Feng Wu was the reason he had lost his whole clan. Chu Junying was Gu Xingyuan's girlfriend, and she worshipped Zhuo Qingyuan, so she hated Feng Wu even more. Everyone knew of the grudge between Zhuo Qingyuan and Feng Wu. It was obvious that Mr. Han was biased towards Zhuo Qingyuan. If Feng Wu started a fight here, she would be at a disadvantage. Of course, she was smarter than that. Leading Chaoga to a corner, she sat down and started cultivating with her eyes closed. After she closed her eyes, Zhuo Qingyuan gave her a resentful glance before looking away. Jun Wuxia had seen through her lie the night before. She was scolded by the Empress Dowager and Emperor Wu before Jun Wuxia scorned her. In the end, she had to pretend to pass out to get away from the palace. After going back home, she really wished she could pass out. She didn't know how to face other people. With Feng Wu still alive, Zhuo Qingyuan didn't feel that she could stay in the imperial capital anymore. Although only a handful of people knew what had happened, Zhuo Qingyuan still feared that Feng Wu would spread the news. She had really thought about killing Feng Wu. She had almost reached the Feng clan when she realized that it was a bad idea. She couldn't kill Feng Wu yet, not like this. When she heard that Feng Wu was going to the War Academy, she had an idea. She knew how she could get rid of Feng Wu forever, without having to do it herself. That was why Zhuo Qingyuan was here. She wanted to see who would be more popular in the War Academy. She wanted to get back at Feng Wu. Ding! Zhuo Qingyuan was still lost in thought when the other end of the portal opened. They were in the wild. It was in the middle of a forest. "This is the Thousand Night Forest," said Mr. Han. He stayed close behind Zhuo Qingyuan and explained, "The War Academy is right here in this forest. The safety zone is the area in a range of 10 kilometers around the academy. Beyond that, there are all sorts of fierce animals." Feng Sun had explained to Feng Wu before she came here that all students of the War Academy would earn points from killing wild beasts, and their ranking on the billboard would depend on their score. Only people who ranked high on the billboard could apply to graduate. A team was coming back from their hunting trip. There were 4 boys and 1 girl. The boys greeted Mr. Han when they saw him. Mr. Han was in charge of opening the portal, and they all needed to go to him every month if they wanted to go home. Therefore, no one could afford to offend him. Chapter 2518 The Prettiest Girl. Chapter 2518 The Prettiest Girl. One of the boys couldn't help but notice Zhuo Qingyuan. "What a pretty girl. Mr. Han, who do we have here? I don't think Shan Jingfei will be the prettiest girl in our year anymore." "Ling Hao, this is Miss Zhuo Qingyuan, the Sacred Lady of Firmament Palace." Mr. Han liked Ling Hao, so he gave the student a reminder, fearing that he might offend the Sacred Lady unknowingly. "Zhuo Qingyuan, the Sacred Lady?" Ling Hao recalled the name and cried out. "As in the one with the true phoenix blood?" Mr. Han nodded. "Holy crap. She's so famous." Ling Hao smiled obsequiously. "Miss Qingyuan, I'm..." However, Zhuo Qingyuan walked right past him before he could finish his sentence. She ignored him completely. Mr. Han left with Zhuo Qingyuan, as if he was her servant. Ling Hao had already stuck out his hand, and he was embarrassed. Ha 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 dash. Ling Hao's team consisted of 5 people. However, the other 4 weren't as outgoing as Ling Hao, so they didn't try to approach her. But they didn't expect Zhuo Qingyuan to be so arrogant. Seeing the look on Ling Hao's face, his friends burst out laughing. Because it came from a girl, the teammates didn't think much of it. Ling Hao cleared his throat and scratched his head awkwardly. "All pretty girls are proud. It's normal." Zhuo Qingyuan was indeed a pretty girl. As soon as she showed up, the boys in the academy went crazy. But, just when they thought that Zhuo Qinghuan was going to be the prettiest girl in the academy, Ling Hao spotted Feng Wu. And when he saw her, he felt his blood freeze. He couldn't look away. What a beautiful girl. She had translucent skin and exquisite features. He had never seen anyone like her before. Zhuo Qinghuan might be the prettiest girl in the academy, but this girl was on a whole other level. No one could compete with her. Miss Qinghuan was pretty in an ordinary way, but this girl almost seemed to belong to another world. Who are you? Ling Hao could barely form a coherent sentence. When he saw Zhuo Qinghuan, he had tried to shake her hand, but now, he was almost too scared to talk to this girl. Feng Wu beamed at him. I'm Feng Wu, and this is Duan Chaoga. We're new here. You're Ling Hao, right? I heard Mr. Han call you that. Ling Hao was amazed. After seeing how arrogant Zhuo Qinghuan was, he thought that this girl would be 10 times prouder. To his surprise, however, she was so easygoing. Chapter 25:19 Amazing Girl. Chapter 25:19 Amazing Girl. Ling Hao's friends were as shocked as he was. She was pretty, gentle, and approachable. What an angel. The War Academy had very few girls, and even less pretty ones. Having Feng Wu here was a miracle. Xiao Xiao stared at Feng Wu and nudged Ling Hao with his elbow. Introduce us, you idiot. Ling Hao snorted. When Zhuo Qinghuan ignored him, they laughed so hard. Now they wanted his help. Ling Hao was honored to know such a pretty girl, so he introduced his friends. This is Xiao Xiao, our team leader. He's into girls. Xiao Xiao grinned at Feng Wu while he stomped on Ling Hao's foot. Shut up. Ling Hao's cheek twitched. That hurt. He went on. This is Wang Ji, the second in command. He's very smart and likes deducing things. I'm third. Fourth is Yi Han. She's a great healer. And fifth is Cheng Fang. Look, he's 2 meters tall and is almost a human shield. Feng Wu noticed that the 4 boys were very friendly, but Yi Han was practically hostile toward her. She didn't know what to say. Were all women natural enemies? But Feng Wu didn't care. With how she looked, she was used to being targeted by other girls. Just then they heard a loud whistle. The academy is calling us to assemble. Ling Hao found it strange. They usually won't interrupt our cultivation like this. What's going on? Let's go back now, Yi Han urged him. That way, she could get away from Feng Wu. Ling Hao nodded. Sure. Miss Feng Wu, you're one of us now, and you need to go to that assembly as well. Come with us. Yi Han was infuriated. But she couldn't let the others see it, and could only sulk on her own. They still had 15 minutes left when they got back, so Ling Hao took Feng Wu and Chaoga to complete their registration. You'll visit the place a lot in the future, Ling Hao told them. After our hunting trips, you have to come here to exchange the animals for points. Hey Wang, wake up. You have guests. Ling Hao seemed to get along with everyone. He walked up to the counter and tapped the countertop. Wang had dozed off. He saw 3 people standing in front of him. All 4 boys had offered to walk with Feng Wu, but Feng Wu found it too over the top and suggested that she could go on her own. However, the team insisted that one of them go with her. After a round of paper, rock, and scissors, Ling Hao won. Since when were you so lucky? Who's the pretty girl? Wang yawned and glanced at Ling Hao. Ling Hao chuckled. She's a new student. Please hurry up. After the registration, we need to go to the assembly. Did you hear the whistle? I need your exam results for year 3, Wang said to Feng Wu. Ling Hao looked away. He decided that she was too pretty to be a serious cultivator, and didn't want to see her grades because they wouldn't be any good. He didn't want to embarrass her. Chapter 25 21st Day. Chapter 25 21st Day. Ling Hao looked away so that he wouldn't embarrass Feng Wu. As a result, he didn't see the look on Wang's face when he saw Feng Wu's grades. People here in the War Academy were sealed off from the outside world by the forest. They could go home once a month, but could stay no more than 2 days. To accumulate as many points as possible, most students hardly ever went back home. Therefore, they were quite behind on the news outside. Wang's hand trembled a little when he saw Feng Wu's grades. He couldn't believe that such grades existed. He looked from the paper to Feng Wu in amazement, then looked back at the paper again. Feng Wu was perplexed. Is something wrong? Before Wang could answer, Ling Hao interjected. Don't be so strict. 1 point or 2 won't make any difference. Just let her in. Here, I've brought you some nice wine. Go away. Wang waved him off. He looked Feng Wu up and down, amazed by how capable this pretty girl was. He put the paper away and took out a booklet. Ling Hao knew that it was time for Feng Wu to choose her room. He immediately said, Wang, are there any 4-bed rooms left? The 6-bed ones aren't as convenient. Look at how pretty Miss Feng Wu is. Someone's bound to get jealous. Wang rolled his eyes at Ling Hao. With Feng Wu's grades, she deserved a room all to herself. However, Feng Wu took Chaoga's hand and said, I want to share a room with her. Chaoga handed over her report card. Wang looked at her grades. Ling Hao leaned over to take a look as well. You barely passed the exam. That was close. You could have been rejected. How lucky. Ling Hao patted Chaoga's shoulder in a brotherly manner. Chaoga said, I made it from year 1 to year 4 within a year, and you call me lucky. What? From year 1 to year 4 in 1 year? You must be joking. Ling Hao couldn't believe it. He grabbed the report card from Wang, and his eyes widened when he saw the content. Gosh, you really skipped year 2 and year 3. Are you even human? He had thought that Chaoga was a foil for Feng Wu, but as it turned out, she was a genius herself. Chaoga was very proud. If he's so excited to see my grades, what will he do when he sees Xiao Wu's? Wang was impressed by Feng Wu's grades, so he was patient enough to explain to them. You're allocated dormitories by your ranking on the billboard. Since you're new, you don't have much choice. Right now, there's only 1 4-bed room available, and it already has 2 occupants. Feng Wu nodded. That one's fine. Wang quickly completed Feng Wu and Chaoga's registration. They each received a key. Ling Hao looked at the form, and his eyes lit up. You're in the same dorm as Yi Han. Chapter 25-21, Who is Chief Zixuan's junior sister? Chapter 25-21, Who is Chief Zixuan's junior sister? Yi Han. Feng Wu wanted to roll her eyes. Why did he think that was good news? Just then, the assembly bell rang out again. Let's go. Ling Hao urged them. On their way, he told Feng Wu, there are 5 classes in the War Academy, ranging from A to E. The new students are all in Class E, regardless of your previous grades. There you go. He nudged Feng Wu and Chaoga in the right direction. The new students won't be doing anything during this meeting, so just stay put. After this, I'll take you to your room. Soon Ling Hao and his teammates returned to Class B. Chaoga was amazed. She said to Feng Wu, Ling Hao and his friends are all in Class B. Feng Wu nodded. We'll be in Class B in no time. A girl walked past them at the moment. She glanced at their armbands and smirked. Don't flatter yourselves. Here in the War Academy, all students had an armband that contained their personal information. It also indicated what class they were in. The armbands of Class E had 1 star, and those of Class A had 5 stars. Right now both Feng Wu and Chaoga only had 1 star. The girl walking past them had 2 stars, indicating that she was from Class D. Wang Junwen, who are they? Asked a girl named Dingy. Wang Junwen smirked. Just some classy newbies. They said they would be in Class B in no time. How stupid. Dingy looked at Feng Wu and was amazed by her beauty. Meanwhile, she also couldn't help but envy her, so she nodded at her friend. They didn't try to keep their voices down, so both Feng Wu and Chaoga heard them. Feng Wu didn't react, but Chaoga couldn't stand what they said about her friend. But Feng Wu stopped her before she could stand up. They can say whatever they want. The only thing we can control is our own actions. Don't be reckless. Chaoga had no choice but to suppress her anger. They soon found Class E. Feng Wu did a quick head count and saw that there were 1,000 students in her class. It was true that out of the 4 years, the War Academy had the greatest number of students. According to Feng Sun, it was extremely difficult to graduate from year 4. Since Feng Wu and Chaoga were at the end of the line, no one noticed them. At the same time, a woman in a purple dress went up on stage. She was Chief Zixuan, the the deputy chief of the year. The War Academy had one chief and two deputies. The chief was a mystery and hardly ever made a public appearance. Today was no exception. Zishuan was one of the deputies. The other was Gong Sun Mu. Chief Zishuan gave a little speech. She announced that she was going to the Peace Grassland, and her junior sister would be working temporarily as the deputy chief. Her junior sister? Who's that? Chief Zishuan came from Firmament Palace. Does that mean? Chaoga's eyes widened when she saw the person walking up to the stage. Chapter 25-22, Deputy Chief Swa. Chapter 25-22 Deputy Chief Swa. Isn't that? Chaoga stared at the person. Ling Hao and his team members were also astonished. That was the girl who had ignored them. Zhuo Qingwan. It was Zhuo Qingwan. Ling Hao had thought that Zhuo Qingwan was one of the new students, but he couldn't have been any more wrong. She wasn't even a teacher. She was the new deputy chief. What did that mean? That was so scary. Everyone looked at the teenage girl on the stage and was amazed by her ethereal beauty. Their minds were blown. Who's she? Zhuo Qingwan. Who's Zhuo Qingwan? OMG. I know who she is. She's that Zhuo Qingwan. I know her name, but... Wait. It's her. The daughter of the Zhuo family, and the sacred lady of Firmament Palace. She has the true phoenix blood. But that's not the most important thing. Rumor is that she's His Royal Highness's fiancée. The Crown Prince's fiancée? Everyone grew excited when they heard the last part. The Crown Prince. Jun Linyuan had been a student of the War Academy once, but he was so outstanding that he became the top student almost right away. Not only that, he also set a record when he graduated. His final score was 100 times higher than the previous record holder. Yes, 100 times. Whatever the previous record holder had achieved, Jun Linyuan achieved 100 times that. That was how incredible he was. The even scarier thing was that he hadn't even exerted his full strength. What was his limit? No one dared to speculate, because the answer would only make them lose more hope. When Jun Linyuan's admirers heard that Zhuo Qingwan was his fiancée, their eyes lit up. His Royal Highness's fiancée? She's going to marry him. That's why Chief Zishuan is giving her the job. It's because of His Royal Highness. Of course. Everyone knows how His Royal Highness defeated Chief Zishuan with a single strike. Everyone was talking at the same time. The news soon got around, spreading from Class A to Class E. That's bullshit. Chaoga was infuriated. She's His Royal Highness's fiancée. The Crown Prince's fiancée is. Feng Wu stomped on her foot before she could go on. Chaoga was confused. Why couldn't she tell the truth? Feng Wu shook her head at Chaoga. Chaoga gave in, but she pointed at Zhuo Qingwan and said, "That's a big fat lie. Karma will get her." Chapter 25-23, Deputy Chief's Disciple. Chapter 25-23 Deputy Chief's Disciple. Zhuo Qingwan looked down at the students. None of them were worth her attention. Except for one person. When she finally spotted the person at the end of the queue, she smirked a little. She was high up here, while Feng Wu was down there in the crowd. She was the well-respected deputy chief, but Feng Wu was only a new student. She felt that she could kill Feng Wu whenever she felt like it. Zhuo Qingwan didn't try to hide her smirk. Feng Wu met her gaze and didn't look away. Both girls saw the hostility in each other's eyes. Chief Zishuan smiled at Zhuo Qingwan. "Qingwan, as the new chief, you're given a privilege." Zhuo Qingwan asked indifferently, "What's that?" Chief Zishuan said, "You can pick any student to be your disciple." Zhuo Qingwan nodded. "And why is that?" Chief Zishuan wanted to roll her eyes at Zhuo Qingwan. Zhuo Qingwan obviously knew the answer to that question. That was so pretentious. Obviously, she wouldn't say that out loud. Zhuo Qingwan was the sacred lady of Firmament Palace, and the future wife of the Crown Prince. Chief Zishuan didn't want to offend her. As a matter of fact, Chief Zishuan was only going to the Peace Grassland because Zhuo Qingwan had requested to replace her as the deputy chief. It was a request that Chief Zishuan couldn't turn down. Everyone knew that the Peace Grassland was very dangerous at the moment, and one could easily die there. Chief Zishuan said, "You can appoint any student here to be your own disciple. In other words, from now on, they'll carry out your orders here in the academy, and at the same time, they can enjoy the resources you provide them." Zhuo Qingwan nodded and frowned a little. "I don't think the students will like that idea." "Of course they will," Chief Zishuan exclaimed. "Everyone dreams of becoming your disciple, right?" The question was for the students. "Yes," the students shouted excitedly. Yes, the students of the War Academy were very proud, but that also depended on the circumstances. When a more powerful and talented person showed up and proved that he or she was beyond their reach, they would immediately revere that person. Zhuo Qingwan made it obvious that she was a spiritual king as soon as she went up to the stage, and the students were impressed. "A spiritual king?" Zhuo Qingwan asked. "Can I pick any one of them?" Chief Zishuan nodded. "Of course. Anyone would jump at that opportunity." Gong Shumu frowned a little. He found the two women from Firmament Palace too flamboyant. Especially Zhuo Qingwan. If she really was the crown prince's fiancée, she should keep a low profile. He decided that he needed some news from the outside world. Somehow, he felt that many things were going to happen in the academy. Meanwhile, Zhuo Qingwan. Chapter 25-24. Who will Zhuo Qingwan choose? Chapter 25-24. Who will Zhuo Qingwan choose? Zhuo Qingwan looked down at the crowd. Many people were thrilled. There were 5,000 students in total from the 5 classes, and nearly everyone who came to the assembly was looking at Zhuo Qingwan. Less than 100 students of Class A were here today, because most of them were away on assignments. They were all looking forward to the opportunity. Apart from being the Sacred Lady of Firmament Palace and the current deputy chief of the academy, Zhuo Qingwan also had an important friend. The Crown Prince. That was what Class A believed. Yang Jianqing thought, "She'll pick me, right? Of all the people here, I have the highest ranking." Ji Rongsha thought, "This is my only chance to get close to His Royal Highness. If I can jump on Zhuo Qingwan's wagon, I'll have a chance to become His Royal Highness's concubine. Please pick me." Her eyes sparkled. And there were many more students who had similar thoughts. If Class A was so excited, imagine what the other 4 classes were feeling. Every chief could only have one disciple. Class E. Sun Jingyu gnashed her teeth. She has the Zhuo family and Firmament Palace behind her. Not only is she the deputy chief now, she's also the crown prince's fiancée. How can someone be so lucky? Sun Jingyu was the class president and had her own small group. One of her friends asked, "Jingyu, do you want to become her disciple?" Sun Jingyu rolled her eyes at the boy named Yuanyu. "Don't you? Can't you see how excited Class A is? But there's only one place, and it'll never come to our class." Yuanyu said, "Class A is graduating soon. Even the students who can't graduate will go to the Peace Grassland. I don't think they have much of a chance." Sun Jingyu said, "Even if that's the case, there are 3 classes more advanced than us. We'll be the last group she'll consider." All the students of Class E sighed inwardly. What a pity. Sun Jingyu said, "Don't fidget. We'll have plenty of opportunities when we get into classes A and B, but for now, we're just onlookers." The students were allocated to different classes according to their rankings. Class A stood the closest to the stage. Behind them was Class B. Class E stood the furthest at the back. The students stood in neat rows. Zhuo Qingwan walked off the stage. Class A was thrilled. Yang Jianqing thought, "Pick me." Ji Rongsha thought, "Please pick me. It'll change my life forever." But Zhuo Qingwan walked right past Class A. The students of Class A were astonished. Yang Jianqing was speechless. So was Ji Rongsha. They were out. Who was Zhuo Qingwan going to choose? Ji Rongsha clenched her fists and followed Zhuo Qingwan with her eyes. She's reached Class B. Chapter 25-25, Condescending Attitude. Chapter 25-25, Condescending Attitude. Students of Class B were thrilled. Chief Qingwan is here. Since she hadn't chosen a disciple from Class A, she must be considering Class B. Someone in Class B would have a chance to meet the Crown Prince in person. Everyone in Class B stood ramrod straight, trying to show their best selves to Zhuo Qingwan. But to their surprise, Zhuo Qingwan walked past Class B as well. Just like that, all the students were dumbfounded. Was Chief Qingwan going to choose someone from Class C? But Zhuo Qingwan ignored Class C as well. Class D was thrilled now. Holy crap! Was it going to be someone from Class D? Wang Junwen and Ding Yi clenched their fists excitedly and wondered if it was going to be them. Class E. Yuan Yu said, Jingyu, look. Chief Qingwan has reached Class D. Sun Jingyu shook her head. Then it has to be someone in Class D. We still won't have a chance. Yuan Yu said, she didn't stop there. She's coming our way. Despite what she said, Sun Jingyu was having butterflies in her stomach. She was right. Zhuo Qingwan was heading for Class E. They were the only class left. It had to be one of them. Gosh. OMG. Chief Qingwan really was going to choose her disciple from Class E. Who would she pick? Who would be the lucky person? Who? Everyone here in the War Academy was an outstanding cultivator. But Zhuo Qingwan would outshine every single one of them, because she was the Crown Prince's fiancée. No one knew where that news came from, but everyone was almost immediately convinced. They believed that Zhuo Qingwan was the only girl in the empire who was good enough for the Crown Prince. Jingyu, look. She's coming our way. Yuan Yu was thrilled. Yuan Yu was a boy. Sun Jingyu also had a female lackey, and her name was Mu Qianqian. She was so excited that she almost fainted. She grabbed Sun Jingyu's hand. Jingyu, it's going to be you. Sun Jingyu feigned a humble tone. Surely not. It'll never be me. Mu Qianqian said, of course it's going to be you. You're the prettiest and most advanced student in our class. All teachers adore you. It's definitely you. Deep down, Sun Jingyu thought the same. Who else could it be? There was no one better than her in this class. But Zhuo Qingwan stopped in front of Feng Wu. She looked condescendingly at Feng Wu. Chapter 25-26 No. Chapter 25-26 No. Zhuo Qingwan spoke in a condescending tone. You then. Those words sounded like a thunderclap to everyone else. Everyone stared at Feng Wu. Who's that girl? She's so pretty. Why haven't I seen her before? Students of other classes also turned around to look at Feng Wu. Yang Jianqing Ji Rongsha, Ling Hao Wang Junwen, and Ding Yi were all looking at her. Sun Jingyu couldn't look away. Her cheek twitched, and she wanted to kill Feng Wu with her gaze. Who's she? Where did she come from? She shrilled. Both Yuan Yu and Mu Qianqian shook their heads. They had no idea who the pretty girl was. No, calling her pretty was such an understatement. She's Feng Wu, a new student, Gu Xingyuan said behind them. His two older brothers were here in the War Academy as well, and Gu Xingyi had taken him to see Sun Jingyu after the registration. With Sun Jingyu's help, Gu Xingyuan was quickly accepted by the other members of the class. Chu Junying was also there. She was with Gu Xingyuan all the time. What's her background? Sun Jingyu asked. Gu Xingyuan recalled the incident during Zhuo Qingwan's birthday and the gift envelopes. He had a feeling that the Crown Prince was fond of Feng Wu instead of Zhuo Qingwan, but he would lie to even his mother if it would make Feng Wu's life harder. So he smirked and said, she's a daughter of the Feng clan. You might have heard her story before. She and Zhuo Qingwan used to be known as the two genius girls of the imperial capital. But she became too greedy and destroyed her cultivation ability. She also lost her true phoenix blood. As you can see, Zhuo Qingwan is the deputy chief now, while she's. One girl was the deputy chief, and the other was only a new student. What a stark contrast. Gu Xingyuan didn't try to lower his voice. He wanted as many people to hear him as possible. Soon the entire class E heard it. And the news spread from Class E to Class A. So it's that Feng Wu. Who's she? I know that name. Her clan has declined. She used to have the true phoenix blood, and she was His Royal Highness's fiancée once. But that engagement was annulled. It's her. That was 5 years ago, right? She used to be a genius as well. I didn't know that she could cultivate again. However, she's nothing compared with Zhuo. Immediately, all eyes were on Feng Wu. Everyone wanted to know her answer. Zhuo smirked at Feng Wu. Even under all the gazes, Feng Wu remained unperturbed. She looked at Zhuo as if she was as ordinary as everyone else. Feng Wu shook her head. No, no one could believe what they just heard. Chapter 25-27, Doubled? I accept. Chapter 25-27 Doubled? I accept. Gosh. No. Someone said no to Zhuo. Everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. It had never occurred to them that someone would turn down that honor. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Zhuo smiled. She knew that Feng Wu wouldn't say yes. That was why she had chosen Feng Wu. She wanted Feng Wu to refuse her proposal in front of everyone, so that Feng Wu would turn into a public enemy. She was a deputy chief. What was Feng Wu? She was only a new student. It was obvious which side the students would take. Only idiots would choose Feng Wu's side. After that, everyone in the academy would become Feng Wu's enemy. Her life would be miserable. Just thinking about it excited Zhuo. Of course, she didn't let any of that show. She frowned and looked indignant at being turned down. She didn't need to say anything, because someone would speak up for her. Chief Zishuan stepped out. She glanced at Feng Wu and asked, "And you? Are?" "She's Feng Wu." Sun Jingyu had heard Gu Xingyuan's introduction. She quickly stood behind Chief Zishuan and answered the question. She needed to show where she stood. It was obvious that she was going to be Feng Wu's enemy. Why haven't I heard that name before? Chief Zishuan frowned. Gu Xingyuan thought, that's a little fake. You were watching Feng Wu when she took the exam. However, he wasn't going to say anything. The more miserable Feng Wu was, the happier he would be. Sun Jingyu said, "She's new. She only got here today." Chief Zishuan nodded and looked enlightened. She asked Feng Wu, "May I ask why you said no?" Feng Wu said, "Do you need a reason?" Chief Zishuan said, "Of course I do. Your refusal has injured Chief Qingwan's dignity. You're a mere student of Class E, and we don't permit such behavior." Everyone agreed with that. Feng Wu only glanced at her, but didn't reply. Chief Zishuan was a little surprised by how stubborn she was. If Feng Wu hadn't lost the true phoenix blood, she would have been Zishuan's junior sister. Life was unpredictable. Chief Zishuan sighed inwardly, then turned to Feng Wu. "Refusing the deputy chief will make it much more difficult for you to graduate. The points you need to obtain will be doubled." "Doubled? I accept." Feng Wu nodded. Chief Zishuan smirked. "To graduate, you need to have enough points, and they're very hard to obtain. That's why it's so difficult to graduate. You don't know what you're facing." Chapter 25-28 Authority. Chapter 25-28 Authority. Feng Wu nodded. Chief Zishuan turned to Zhuo. "To make up for your injured dignity, the points she needs to earn is doubled. We'll call it even then. You still have 2 more chances to pick a disciple." 2 more chances? Zhuo smiled a little and asked Feng Wu again. "Will you be my disciple?" "What?" Everyone was surprised. "Seriously?" Feng Wu again. Does she know what will happen when Feng Wu says no for a second time? Chief Zishuan hesitated. "Qingwan?" Zhuo asked. "Am I not allowed to pick the same person?" Chief Zishuan said, "You can, but..." She looked at Feng Wu. Feng Wu said, "No." She sounded like she wasn't bothered at all. Gong Sunmu stepped out and reminded her, "Feng Wu, if you refuse her again, the points you need to graduate will be 5 times more than other students. Doubling the points would already make it impossible for her to graduate. What about 5 times?" The other students all stared at Feng Wu. They believed that she would change her mind. But Feng Wu only looked at Zhuo without saying another word. She had made up her mind. Gong Sunmu couldn't help but remind Feng Wu, "You can't possibly earn so many points." Feng Wu shook her head. "Thank you for your reminder, but I don't care." Gong Sunmu shook his head. "Do you know what will happen if you can't graduate?" Feng Wu asked curiously. "What will happen?" Gong Sunmu smiled bitterly. You're a student of the War Academy now, so you have the right to know a few things. If you can't graduate, you'll have to join the battle at Peace Grassland. Feng Wu had guessed as much. Are you referring to the war with the Dongxing Kingdom? Gong Sunmu said, that's right. It was getting even fiercer, and the empire was losing ground. Of course, Gong Sunmu omitted the last part. Feng Wu said, I'm alright with that. Gong Sunmu shook his head. Before he could say anything else, Chief Zixuan said, so be it. Qingwan, you still have one more chance. All eyes were on Zhuo Qingwan. Who would she choose now? Surely, not Feng Wu again. That was outrageous, because if Feng Wu said no a third time. But Zhuo Qingwan turned to Feng Wu again. I've been playing by the book all my life, but I want to do something willful today. Feng Wu, will you be my disciple? That was the third time she asked Feng Wu. Zhuo Qingwan did it. At first, the students had hoped that being someone of their own age, Zhuo Qingwan would be easy to get along with. But after the 3 questions, she had proven that she wasn't. She was using Feng Wu to assert her authority. Poor Feng Wu. Chapter 25-29, Politically Correct. Chapter 25-29 Politically Correct. Gong Sunmu frowned at Zhuo Qingwan before turning to Feng Wu. If you turn her down again, you'll need 10 times as many points. Not only would that make it impossible for Feng Wu to graduate, she would also have offended Zhuo Qingwan for the 3rd time. Feng Wu would ruin her own future. But if she said yes now, she might still have a chance. Gong Sunmu wasn't alone. Many students felt the same. They all felt conflicted. It was an indescribable feeling. I said no. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. Did Zhuo Qingwan think that she would tolerate her provocation forever? No. Feng Wu said no. Was she nuts? Everyone sucked in their breaths and stared at Feng Wu. Zhuo Qingwan was greatly satisfied. Feng Wu had humiliated her so many times. And she almost hadn't made it through court. Finally, it was her turn. What she didn't know was that although her plan had worked, the result had also created a loophole. Soon, she would pay dearly for what she had done today. Of course, we'll talk about that later. The assembly was over. The students left in 2s and 3s, all discussing what had just happened. At first, they had expected to make friends with Zhuo Qingwan, but now, all they had for her was reverence. Zhuo Qingwan had become the latest idol of the War Academy. However, because of her aggressive behavior, her popularity had dropped a little from 100% to 95%. Most of the 5% felt sorry for Feng Wu. Xiaoga jumped to her feet when everyone was gone. Xiao Wu, that was outrageous. She had tried to say those words all this time, but Feng Wu stopped her. Why wouldn't you let me say anything? She's obviously abusing her power. She's getting back at you because His Royal Highness was nice to you. I'll tell everyone that you're His Royal Highnesses. Duan Xiaoga. Feng Wu glared at her. Xiaoga would back off whenever Feng Wu became serious. Feng Wu said, I have my plan, and your willful behavior will only get in my way. Our enemy will use you to get to me. It has always been like that. Can't you see it? Xiaoga said, I just can't help it. Feng Wu said, you must. Losing control of your temper will only become your downfall. Xiaoga said, all right. Sun Jingyu and a few others walked in their direction. Sun Jingyu felt entitled to give orders to new students of Class E. She said to Feng Wu, do you know what new students must do? Feng Wu was bewildered. Sun Jingyu smirked. All new students clean the toilets for a month. Now go, both of you. The students around her all burst out laughing. Because Feng Wu had offended Chief Qingwan, it was now the politically correct thing to do to bully her. Chapter 25-30 10 times more. Chapter 25-30 10 times more. Feng Wu smiled. A task for new students, you say? Sun Jingyu didn't reply, but Mu Qianqian nodded. That's right. Get on with it. Feng Wu pointed at Gu Xingyuan and Chu Junying. They're new as well. Mu Qianqian frowned. Just do as you're told. You should be honored to be given such a job. Feng Wu said. What if I refuse? Mu Qianqian said. Then we'll deduct your points. You. Feng Wu began to walk away before Mu Qianqian could finish. Be my guest. You. Mu Qianqian turned to Sun Jingyu for help. Jingyu, did you see that? Who the hell does she think she is, His Royal Highness's fiancé? Sun Jingyu gave her a stern look, and she immediately stopped talking. Ling Hao arrived at that moment. He came alone, while the rest of his team waited for him some distance away. What's this? Are you bullying the new students? Ling Hao asked angrily. Sun Jingyu's stomach lurched. Ling Hao was from Class B, which was a lot more advanced than Class E. They didn't dare to talk back to him. The War Academy was a hierarchical place. Sun Jingyu threw a dirty look at Feng Wu and walked away. Are you alright? Ling Hao sounded concerned. Feng Wu shrugged. I'm fine. Sun Jingyu was a petty character, and Feng Wu knew she wouldn't stay in Class E for much longer, so she wasn't bothered. Ling Hao sighed. Why are you so stubborn? You could have become the deputy chief's own disciple. Zhuo Qingwan is young, but she's a spiritual king. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Chaoge said, so what? Xiao Wu will be a spiritual king soon. Who are you kidding? Ling Hao didn't take her seriously. He told Feng Wu. Fine, you don't like her. I think I know why. Feng Wu was perplexed. Ling Hao said, it's because she's His Royal Highness's fiancée, isn't it? Feng Wu said, what? Ling Hao said, I understand. All girls are in love with His Royal Highness, right? Zhuo Qingwan is his fiancée, and it's normal that you don't like her. Feng Wu almost choked on her own spit. She said, I'm amazed. She was amazed by his wild imagination. Ling Hao said, of course you are. I know what girls are like. You didn't have to make it so obvious though. Feng Wu shook her head. I just can't stand her. Ling Hao said, why? Feng Wu said, I just can't. It's not like me. Ling Hao said, how can you take it so lightly? Feng Wu said, why can't I? Ling Hao said, you'll need 10 times more points. Do you know what that means? Feng Wu said, it's not that bad, is it? Ling Hao said, yes it is. You have no idea how difficult it is to earn points. Chapter 2531 Ways to Earn Points. Chapter 2531 Ways to Earn Points. Feng Wu asked, how difficult is it? Ling Hao said, didn't Wang give you an armband? All the points are saved there. You're given 100 points when you register, but accommodation and food will both cost you points. You won't be able to pay for anything if you don't earn points. Feng Wu said, will I be expelled if I can't pay? Ling Hao stared at her. Do you want to be expelled? Feng Wu said, I don't care actually. The fairy said in her head, you can't be expelled. Feng Wu asked, why? The fairy said, if you're expelled, your master will never wake up. Feng Wu asked, what? Why? The fairy disappeared. Feng Wu was astonished. Was the fairy blackmailing her now? Seeing that Feng Wu was in a daze, Ling Hao waved his hand in front of her face. Feng Wu looked at him. Not Eve. Ling Hao said, it's more complicated than that. The punishment is more severe than just expulsion. Just earn as many points as possible, and don't go into debt. Feng Wu said, I'll do my best. Ling Hao was about to say something else, when Feng Wu cut him off. How do I earn points? Ling Hao said, there are a few ways. One is to complete tasks. You can get the requests from Wang, and you earn points when you complete them. Another way is through exams. We have an exam every month, and the top 3 students in each class are rewarded. Class E's points are the lowest, but they're enough for junior students like you. Junior students. Feng Wu checked Ling Hao's cultivation level, and wanted to shake her head. You're in the same room with Yi Han. I'll get her to. Hey, where is she? Ling Hao turned around, and saw that Yi Han wasn't with his team members. Cheng Fong said awkwardly. Yi Han said she didn't feel well, so she went back. Everyone could see that Yi Han didn't like Feng Wu. Ling Hao was embarrassed. Feng Wu shook her head. We'll settle in and go see Wang for our tasks. Don't worry about us. She waved at him, then left with Chaoga. Feng Wu was a level 9 spiritual lord. People in the imperial capital thought that she was only at level 6, and the students here probably took her for a level 3 spiritual lord. That was because most students in Class E were at level 3. Chaoga was even at level 2. She barely made it into year 4. The living quarters were huge. However, there were signs everywhere, and they soon found the girls' dormitory. They were stopped at an iron gate. The moderator was a middle-aged woman. She looked condescendingly at Feng Wu, and didn't seem very friendly. Feng Wu and Chaoga did everything by the book, so she wasn't able to accuse them of anything when she examined their personal belongings. Chapter 2532. You must graduate. Chapter 2532. You must graduate. In the end, the moderator could only stare at Feng Wu in resignation. She wondered how this pretty girl had messed with the wrong people. Recalling the person who had hired her, the moderator shook her head and stared at Feng Wu. The room is 90 points a month. Stick out your hand. The woman scanned her armband, and the points were deducted. Before Feng Wu could say anything, Chaoga snapped. 90 points a month? But we only have 100 points. We need to eat. The woman said grumpily, that's the rule. We deduct the points once a month. I don't have the time to scan you every day. Chaoga was furious. She believed that the woman was doing it on purpose. The woman rolled her eyes at Chaoga. If you can't afford a 4-person room, you can move to an 8-person one when they're available. Poor people are so annoying. Chaoga felt humiliated. I'm going to file a complaint. The woman said, go ahead. Do I need to show you the way? Feng Wu stared at the woman, and the look in her eyes made the woman uneasy. The woman said, what are you waiting for? Get moving. Feng Wu smiled. You never know who'll be the winner in the end. The woman snorted. Zhuoqingwan was going to be the future wife of the crown prince, and Feng Wu was only an ordinary girl. That was what the woman believed. Hear me out. You should be content with what you have. You're just not built to become someone important. Accept it. You can go to your room now. The woman then chased Feng Wu and Chaoga away from the office. Chaoga was furious. But after what Feng Wu told her, she had to control her temper. Feng Wu asked, you're mad, aren't you? Chaoga said yes. Feng Wu said, then let your frustration become your motivation. Chaoga nodded. They had heard from Ling Hao that there was a cultivation room here. It was rich in the spiritual essence of all elements. Chaoga's cultivation ability had been fundamentally changed in the tomb, and she had taken up Unflower's skills. As a result, she focused on the fire and wood elements now. Although Fallen Star Yard had a formation for gathering spiritual essence, there wasn't anything that was specifically for the elements she needed. She was looking forward to earning some points, so that she could go to that cultivation room. Both she and Feng Wu only had 10 points left, and they could barely afford any food. Their keys said that they were in room 2001. They found the room. The door opened. Feng Wu looked inside, and found that it was a spacious flat. There was a living room in the center, and each corner of the living room led to a bedroom. Luckily, each student had their own room. Otherwise, Feng Wu wouldn't be able to stand it. You have to graduate. Otherwise, your master won't wake up, the fairy reminded her again. It seemed that she was worried that Feng Wu would leave. Feng Wu was perplexed. But why? The fairy didn't answer. Chapter 2533. Until you surrender. Chapter 2533. Until you surrender. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Why did she have to graduate? Did it have something to do with her beautiful master? I can only give you a little hint. The fairy spoke again. It has something to do with the third broken star piece. She stopped talking after that. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Who are you? Who permitted you to come in? Someone shouted at Feng Wu and Chaoga. The girl had a knife in her hand, and she looked like she was ready to start a fight at any moment. Chaoga was already frustrated, and the girl's tone upset her even more. She glared at the girl. We opened the door with our own key. We're going to live here as well. Do you have a problem with that? She tossed her key up and down as she spoke. The girl was called Ziling, and she was also a student of Class E. She glared at Chaoga and Feng Wu, but didn't say anything. Stomping her foot, she went back to her room. She slammed the door behind her. Chaoga pointed at the door and turned to Feng Wu. What's wrong with the people here? Why are they so unfriendly? Feng Wu only smiled. Had it not been for Zhuo Qingwan, they would have been very popular. After Zhuo Qingwan publicly announced her hostility toward Feng Wu, the entire War Academy would support her. Don't mind her, Feng Wu said indifferently. Don't mind her. Of course Chaoga minded that girl's attitude. She couldn't understand how Feng Wu could remain unaffected. The best 2 rooms have been picked, leaving them with 2 inferior ones. Chaoga opened one, and found that it was filled with old junk. Did someone turn this place into a storage unit? Chaoga shouted at the 2 closed doors. But no one answered. Ziling smirked. Because those 2 rooms had been empty for a while, Yihan turned one of them into her storage room. Ziling had followed suit after that. Chaoga smirked. If you won't empty out the rooms, I'll do it for you. She opened the doors. Feng Wu had given her a storage bag, so she emptied both rooms with a wave of her hand. She then went to Ziling and Yihan's rooms. Whoosh! She dumped everything outside their rooms, blocking their doors. Hearing the noise, Ziling opened the door. The junk poured into her room. You! Ziling came out and wanted to slap Chaoga. But she wasn't Chaoga's match. Chapter 2534 OMG. Chapter 2534 OMG. Chaoga pinned Ziling's hands behind her back. Let go of me. Yihan, help. Ziling cried out. But Yihan's door never opened. No one knew if Yihan was in her room. Probably not. You've both disrespected Miss Qingwan. You're going to die. Ziling threatened Chaoga. Let go of me. I'll kick your ass. Chaoga smirked. Fine. Bring it on. Thump. 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 More blows were exchanged. Ziling was covered with bruises and couldn't even stand up. She sincerely regretted her decision. She couldn't understand how a new student could beat her. She was an average student in Class E. That shouldn't happen. She wished that she hadn't confronted the 2 girls. Chaoga stepped on Ziling's back, ready to surrender. Ziling wanted to say no. Chaoga said, I can do this all day. Ziling didn't want to fight her anymore. Chaoga smirked. If you want some more fights, I can give you that chance. Ziling was so frightened that she almost burst into tears. Why was the girl so fierce? They fought from morning to evening, and Ziling felt like all her bones were broken. I surrender, she said. Chaoga let go of her. You'll be my minion from now on. You'll have to do as Xiao Wu says. Understood? Ziling couldn't understand it. If she had become Chaoga's minion, why should she follow Feng Wu's orders? Seeing the way Chaoga handled Ziling like a chicken, Feng Wu felt sorry for the girl. She handed Ziling some ointment. For your wounds. Her face was bruised and swollen. Ziling didn't know how miserable she looked until she stood in front of a mirror. She cried out. Chaoga snapped. Quiet. It's just a little scratch. A little scratch. Look at my face. Ziling was almost in tears. The whole class is going on a mission tomorrow. How am I supposed to go out like this? Chaoga scratched her ear. Ziling was so loud. Ziling grabbed Chaoga's arm and shook her. Did you have to hit my face? My face. She really was crying now. Chaoga felt a little guilty. Are you really crying now? Ziling ignored her. Chaoga said, Didn't Xiao Wu give you that ointment? That's a supreme level medicine. Use it, and you'll be good as new. Ziling didn't believe her, because supreme level medicine could be very expensive. It shouldn't be something that Chaoga could afford. See for yourself, said Chaoga. That's not even her best work. Ziling thought, You're still lying to me. I won't be taken for a fool. She threw away the bottle. Thud! The bottle cracked when it hit the floor, and the smell filled the air. Chapter 2535, How Generous One. Chapter 2535 How Generous One. The bottle cracked when it hit the floor, and the smell filled the air. What a wonderful smell! Ziling ran over, and picked up what was left of the bottle. It really was a supreme level medicine. No, it can't be. Medicines of that level are so expensive. Why would she give it to me for free? Chaoga rolled her eyes at Ziling. That's the last one. Throw it away if you want. Ziling felt conflicted, but if her wounds weren't treated, she couldn't go out tomorrow. Fine, I'll use it. Ziling scooped up some of the ointment and applied it to her skin. She smeared it on her face, her arms and her legs. She didn't know if she would recover in time. The idea of meeting the whole class like this the following morning made her frustrated. I'll never forgive you if I can't recover by tomorrow. Ziling stormed back to her room. Early the next morning, Chowga! Chowga! Ziling banged excitedly on Chowga's door. Chowga was still in bed, and she opened the door with a flick of her fingers. Chowga! Ziling ran into the room, opened the curtain to let the sunlight in, and grabbed Chowga's hand. Chowga didn't like being woken up this way. Ziling said, Look, all my wounds and bruises are gone. Chowga said sleepily, All right. Ziling said, Look, my skin is so smooth. It has never been this good before. She had always felt inferior because of her darker skin tone, but after using the ointment, she was glowing. It was incredible. Chowga nodded and wanted to go back to sleep. Ziling wouldn't let her. Just look at me. I'm so fair now. Chowga rolled her eyes at Ziling. Why are you so surprised? You used the supreme level medicine. Say another word, and I'll slap you. Let me sleep. Ziling didn't dare say a word. Despite having been told off, she was thrilled. It really was a bottle of supreme level medicine. Gosh, how rich was Feng Wu? It suddenly occurred to her that she had only used less than half of what was in the bottle, and the rest was still on the floor. Ziling ran out to the living room. The ointment was still there on the floor. Her eyes lit up. Just then someone walked in and stepped on. Ziling almost wept. You! She pointed at Yihan. How could you step on it? She had stepped on the ointment. Ziling had wanted to cover the rest of her body with the ointment. Yihan shook her head. Why are you making such a big fuss? It's only a pair of shoes. Chapter 2536, How Generous Too. Chapter 2536, How Generous Too. Ziling thought. Who cares about your shoes? My ointment. She ran so fast that she almost knocked Yihan down. The white ointment had turned black after Yihan stepped on it. Ziling glared at her. Yihan was confused. What's the matter with you? What's with all this junk? Ziling looked at the ointment on the floor and hated Yihan. But most importantly, Ziling knelt on the floor and scooped all the ointment into an empty bottle. She almost wanted to rub her face on the floor. Yihan stared at her and asked incredulously, Are you nuts? Ziling ignored her. When Yihan saw the pile of things outside her door, she was furious. What on earth is going on here? Ziling was too focused on the medicine to answer her question. Thump, thump, thump. Yihan tried to open the door to her original storage room, but it wouldn't open. Frustrated, she banged on the door. It was now Feng Wu's room. Feng Wu was cultivating and wouldn't answer the door. What are you doing? Chowga opened her door and asked angrily. How dare this person bang on Xiao Wu's door? Yihan was furious. She pointed at the pile of things behind her. What the hell did you do? Chowga said impatiently. I should be the one asking that question. Why did you put your things everywhere? If you don't want them, I'll throw them out. Yihan said, That's my stuff. Chowga said, Is that so? Who gave you the permission to put your things wherever you want? Yihan glared at her. Chowga said, We each have one room only. What makes you think that you can occupy someone else's room? You don't get to question me. She was about to slam her door shut. Stop right there. Yihan said coldly. Chowga turned around to face her. Yihan said, Clear out your room now. I need it for my things. Chowga found the demand idiotic. Yihan said, Do it now. She didn't like Duan Chowga, and she disliked Feng Wu even more. She hadn't liked Feng Wu ever since Ling Hao gave her a warm welcome, and it only became worse when Feng Wu became the center of attention at the morning assembly. Chowga rolled her eyes at Yihan. What if I say no? Yihan smirked. Are you sure? Chowga said, Positive. Yihan said, Fine. I'll beat you until you say. Yes. She charged at Chowga. After learning Unflower's skills, Chowga was a very capable cultivator now. Yihan was from Class B, and should be more advanced than Chowga. Thump, thump, thump. They started exchanging blows. Yihan narrowed her eyes. She didn't expect the new student to be such a good fighter, but she didn't think that Chowga was her match. Chapter 2537, How Generous 3. Chapter 2537, How Generous 3. Chowga indeed wasn't Yihan's match. She would fight back when she had the chance, but Yihan could easily overwhelm her. She was going to lose after 30 blows. Thump. Yihan struck at Chowga. Chowga would be severely injured if Yi Yan's blow hit her. Chowga, watch out! Ziling cried out. Before she knew it, Ziling had sided with Chowga and was worried about her. But the next moment, thump! Yihan was kicked away with tremendous force. How did that happen? Ziling watched as Yihan flew away. She then looked at Feng Wu, who was helping Chowga to her feet. Gosh! Holy crap! She couldn't believe her eyes. That was Feng Wu, the new student. The supposedly useless Feng Wu. But she had just kicked Yihan away so easily. Yihan was a student of Class B, the second best class. Ziling sucked in a breath. She wasn't the only one who was shocked. Yihan fell and slid a few meters over the floor before she stopped when she hit the wall. Luckily, the War Academy used the best soundproofing material. No one outside heard the noise. There was a burning pain in Yihan's back. Being a Class B student, she thought she could easily crush the new students. It had never occurred to her that she would be the one who was crushed. No, it had to be a coincidence. Yihan struggled to her feet. She glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu, did you do this? Yihan was furious. Feng Wu didn't even look at her. She ignored me. Yihan was humiliated. Who the hell do you think you are? You've offended Miss Qingwan. You'll never graduate. Just die. Yihan charged at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was asking Chowga, are you hurt? Chowga said, it's just a scratch. Feng Wu gave her a bottle of supreme-level ointment. Another bottle? Ziling was so excited that she trembled. However, she was kind enough to warn Feng Wu. Watch out. Yihan was already by Feng Wu's side. No one saw how Feng Wu moved, but, thump, Yihan flew away just like before, and she landed in the same spot. She smashed into the wall again. Wow! She spat out a mouthful of blood. Ziling was amazed. Gosh! Feng Wu was. Ziling had seen it clearly this time. It really was Feng Wu. Feng Wu only moved when Yihan was a leg away from her. Chapter 2538, How Generous 4. Chapter 2538, How Generous 4. Yihan couldn't even withstand one kick. A student from Class B was so easily defeated. Feng Wu, I'm going to kill you. Yihan spat out another mouthful of blood. Ziling suddenly felt sorry for Yihan. But Yihan wouldn't admit her defeat. She struggled to her feet and charged at Feng Wu for the third time. This time, she was kicked away just like the first 2 times. She kept trying until it was the 10th time. This time, she couldn't get up anymore. She lay on the floor and stared at Feng Wu. Her mouth and clothes were covered with blood, and the fact that Feng Wu was better than her filled her with despair. She had been angry the first 2 times, and the 2 times after that. Then she became confused. By the 10th time, she finally admitted her defeat. Ziling felt sorry for Yihan, but she was happy that it wasn't her. Luckily, she had surrendered in time. Otherwise, she would be the one crying on the floor now. She walked up to Yihan, knelt on the floor, and took out the last bit of ointment she had. Sister Yi, this is... Yihan pushed her away before she could finish. With how severely injured she was, it was amazing that she could push Ziling so hard. Although Ziling managed to steady herself, she dropped what was left of the ointment. Thump! The porcelain bowl fell on the ground. My ointment! Ziling really was crying now. Yihan struggled to her feet and stared at Feng Wu coldly. She took a deep breath and jumped out the window. She hadn't killed herself, had she? Chaoga rushed to the window and saw Yihan stumble away. She's so stubborn, Chaoga mumbled. Ziling was concerned. Is Sister Yi going to be all right? Fengwu nodded. It's not as bad as it looks. Her internal organs will be fine as long as she doesn't do anything reckless. Staying in bed for 2 weeks and using some supreme-level medicine should do the trick. Ziling was baffled. Some supreme-level medicine? Not everyone had that. Most people would never encounter something like that in their lifetime. Fengwu watched as Chaoga bundled the things into Yihan's room and cleaned the living room. Did you say that there was going to be a big event today? That's right. Ziling showed Fengwu to the door. There was a schedule on the wall. We have a major assembly today, Ziling said. All students of Class E are going on a mission together, and we only have 15 minutes left. Let's go. Fengwu, Chaoga, and Ziling were all in Class E. Ziling explained it to them on their way to the gathering. Chapter 2539, The Mission 1. Chapter 2539, The Mission 1. Missions like these are our best chance to earn points. Miss Fengwu, can I team up with you? Ziling asked excitedly. Before, she would have stayed far away from Fengwu, but things were different now. She had seen Fengwu's true power. She had kicked Yihan away so easily, and Yihan was from Class B. How terrifying would her real power be? And Ziling knew that she could use that sort of help. Follow Fengwu, and she would win. Fengwu asked, Earn points? How? Ziling's eyes sparkled. She said, The 1,500 students of Class E will be divided into 5-member teams. That's 300 teams in total. The teams will be ranked by the points they get, and members of the top team will each earn 100 extra points. The best member of that team will get another 100 points. The second best team will get 80 points. The third one will get 60 points. The fourth to the 100th will get 40 points. The 100th to the 200th 20 points. The last 100 teams won't receive any points. Absent students, students who ask for help, and those who take leave will have their points deducted. How many points do you have now? Ziling asked. Chaoga said, 10. Ziling's eyes widened. How is that possible? We each have 100 points to start with, don't we? Chaoga said, Yes, but this room costs 90 points a month. Ziling stared at her. The look gave Chaoga the creeps. What? Ziling asked. Why did you pay the rent for the whole month when you can pay by the week? Some students even pay every 5 or 3 days. How are you going to pay for your meals now? Chaoga was shocked. The moderator had lied to them. Ziling said, Apart from accommodation, taking classes will cost you points as well. Everyone has to save up, or they won't be able to last for long in this place. Chaoga asked, Do I have to pay to go to classes? Ziling said, Of course. As long as you can afford it, you can go to whichever class you want. Duan Chaoga stared in shocked silence. Ziling said, A big event like this doesn't happen every day, so we have to cherish this opportunity. Individual tasks are much more time-consuming. If you only have 10 points, you have to work hard this time. Otherwise, you won't be able to attend any class. Fengwu glanced at the moderator on their way out. The woman raised her chin in an arrogant manner. Chapter 2540, The Mission 2. Chapter 2540, The Mission 2. Just then they saw someone coming their way. The person came from the villa section. It was none other than Zhuo Qingwan herself. The moderator beamed at Zhuo Qingwan when she saw her. Miss Qingwan. She greeted the girl from afar and bowed. Zhuo Qingwan didn't even glance at the woman as she walked past her. The woman only raised her head after Zhuo Qingwan was a few hundred meters away. She said, She's so young but so talented. And she's the crown prince's fiancée as well. Her future is so promising. She then sneered at Fengwu and Chaoga. Fengwu couldn't be bothered to respond. Fearing that Fengwu would be angry, Ziling dragged her and Chaoga away. After a few hundred meters, Chaoga threw off her hand and asked, Why did we run? Ziling whispered, You don't want to cross that woman. Chaoga asked, Why should I be afraid of her? Ziling said. Because her husband is one of the assistant tutors of Class E. Each class was led by a chief tutor and 5 assistant tutors. Chowga said. Even the chief tutor can't scare me. Ziling rolled her eyes at Chowga. All tutors are capable cultivators, even the ones of Class E. They're as good as Class A graduates, if not better. You were crushed by Yi Han, and you'll surely be crushed by any of the tutors. Don't do anything impulsive, okay? Chowga only smirked. Since Feng Wu had defeated Yi Han, Ziling felt that she was good enough to be a Class B student. Yi Han was one of the weaker students, however, so Ziling believed that Feng Wu should only be above average in Class B. But that was impressive enough. It would make her invincible in Class E. Soon they arrived at the designated location. Almost all the students had arrived, and they had picked their teammates. Someone called Ziling's name. Ziling, join us. We have 1 spot left. A teenager named Lu Xiao waved at her. Next to him was a girl named Jinya, who frowned at the suggestion. Ziling glanced at Jinya and shook her head. That's all right. I have a team already. Jinya took Lu Xiao's arm affectionately. Lu Xiao, she has her own team. Let's not trouble her. Lu Xiao frowned when he saw Feng Wu. It was obvious that Ziling's teammate was the new student who had offended Chief Qingwan. Ziling, why are you with them? You'll be a bottom team. Lu Xiao tried to pull Ziling away. Zhenya gave Ziling a warning look. Ziling pretended not to notice it. She said grumpily, it's my choice. Go back to your team. She then dragged Feng Wu and Chowga in the other direction. Team up with Feng Wu and you'll lose. Lu Xiao shouted after Ziling. Ziling thought, you have no idea how good Feng Wu is. Because of what Lu Xiao said, everyone looked in their direction. It's Feng Wu. Everyone had almost forgotten about the once genius girl, but Zhuo Qingwan had jogged their memories. Chapter 2541, The Mission 3. Chapter 2541, The Mission 3. Since she had been targeted by Zhuo Qingwan, Feng Wu would have a very difficult time here in War Academy. Chowga asked curiously, what's their problem? Why do I feel like that girl doesn't like you? Ziling said, just ignore them. Chowga and Feng Wu exchanged looks and decided that there had to be a story behind it. By then, they only had 3 minutes left. If no one else joined them, they would only have 3 people in their team. With 3 team members only, they were bound to become the team with the lowest points. At least, that was what Jinya believed. Who do we have here? What? Can't you find any teammates? Mu Qianqian asked in a taunting voice. Sun Jingyu was by her side. Feng Wu glanced at her and ignored the question. Mu Qianqian felt as if she had just been slapped. Feng Wu, she bellowed. Chowga glared at her. Stop shouting at us. Who the hell do you think you are? Sun Jingyu cut them off. Be quiet. Do you want to do this or not? The 5 of us will form a team. That's it. Chowga asked. What if I say no? Sun Jingyu was very persistent. You're new students here, and you don't know the rules. You're so weak, and we're going to fight white and lion elephants this time. If you're killed, it's my points that will be deducted, so shut up. Duan Chowga stared in shocked silence. She had never lost a quarrel until now. She wanted to retort, but Sun Jingyu had the moral high ground. Mu Qianqian smirked. We're doing you a favor, okay? Don't be ridiculous. Chowga said. We don't need your help. Mu Qianqian said. The class president can decide which students go to which teams. Unless you're not a student of Class E, you have to follow her orders. Guys, am I right? The students answered in unison, yes. Chowga was speechless. Feng Wu patted her shoulder. It's all right. She didn't care who she teamed up with. But it was very unlike Sun Jingyu to be so helpful toward some new students. Lu Xiao said enviously. With Jingyu's help, that team may actually get quite a few points. Zhenya smirked. Jingyu is good, but those 3 are all weaklings. Do you think Jingyu alone can change anything? That team is doomed. The other students were all amazed by how generous their class president was. Chowga was mad. Feng Wu was too good to take part in such an event. That class president was a hypocrite who wanted to steal the spotlight. Every team leader received a number, Because Sun Jingyu was the class president, her team always got number 1. And Sun Jingyu had always been the most outstanding team player in Class E. Chapter 2542, The Mission 4. Chapter 2542, The Mission 4. Everyone looked enviously at Feng Wu and Chaoga. Feng Wu couldn't be bothered to respond. Chaoga was speechless. Ziling was excited. The class president was on her team. We're going to be the best team, she thought to herself. An assistant tutor was already speaking on the platform. Their mission was to hunt white and lion elephants. The animals lived in the outer circle of Thousand Night Forest. They were giant beasts with the head of a lion and the body of an elephant. They had terrifying strength. A student could earn a point when they obtained a crystal core from a white and lion elephant. Feng Wu was in Team 001, and Lu Xiao was in Team 015. Jingyu, you're not in our team this time. I'm so sad, someone said mockingly as she walked past Feng Wu. Feng Wu looked up. The girl beamed at her. I'm Pei Si. Would you like to join my team? Feng Wu frowned. There was something condescending about the girl's tone, which she didn't like. You don't want to? Miss President is going to get you killed. See you later. Pei Si's 4 friends chuckled and dashed off. That stupid girl. How dare she act like she's better than us? Mu Qianqian clenched her fists. Feng Wu glanced at Ziling. Ziling explained. Class E has a ranking system. All the students are on it, and it's updated each month. Jingyu is currently the top student, and Pei Si is second. She then lowered her voice. Pei Si only joined the academy last year, but she's been making rapid progress. Jingyu feels threatened because Pei Si is also outgoing and likes to make friends. Chaoga was glad to hear that. Feng Wu knew what Sun Jingyu was doing. Someone higher up had probably given Sun Jingyu instructions, telling her to choose Feng Wu as a team member, so as to plot against her later. At that thought, she glanced at Sun Jingyu. She recalled what the assistant tutor said earlier. No one is allowed to rob other people of their crystal cores, retaliate against personal enemies, go deep into the woods. Or, Ziling whispered. Mr. Tan, the assistant tutor, is the moderator's husband. As for what kind of person he is, you'll see. Let's begin. After Mr. Tan made that announcement, the students dashed off in all directions. Let's go, Mu Qianqian said impatiently. Do you think the white and lion elephants are going to come to you? Chaoga glared at her. Be polite. Mu Qianqian said, I am polite. Their shouting was giving Sun Jingyu a headache, so she shouted, Shut up, both of you. Mu Qianqian immediately stopped talking, and Chaoga didn't persist either. Sun Jingyu glared at Feng Wu. Keep your friend on a leash. Feng Wu shrugged. Sun Jingyu wanted to smack Feng Wu, but she had a mission, so she could only take a deep breath. Chapter 2543, Take Action 1. Chapter 2543, Take Action 1. Sun Jingyu snorted. Enough with the nonsense. Follow me. I know where to find the white and lion elephants. While she took the lead, Mu Qianqian walked in the rear. Feng Wu wondered if they were making sure that no one followed them. She looked forward to seeing what would happen next. Sun Jingyu led them to the northeast. At first, there were many students around, but as they walked deeper into the woods, there was hardly anyone around. Ziling felt that something was wrong, so she asked, Why haven't we started hunting? She had seen several white and lion elephants running past them. They didn't need to carry the entire animal back. The crystal core alone was enough. It was so convenient, but they hadn't started yet. Ziling was perplexed. But she didn't dare question Sun Jingyu either, so she asked the question in a tiny voice. Mu Qianqian snapped. Shut up. Who gave you permission to speak? Ziling immediately fell silent. A common Class E student like Ziling wouldn't dare offend the more influential groups. And Mu Qianqian was a member of such a group. Chaoga was displeased and glared at Mu Qianqian. You shut up. Who the hell do you think you are? You. Mu Qianqian was about to retort, when Sun Jingyu silenced her with a glance. Mu Qianqian took the hint. She smirked and ignored Chaoga. Chowga didn't see the interaction. She patted Ziling on the shoulder and said, "They like bullying nice people. Be fiercer, and she won't dare to treat you that way." Ziling didn't know what to say. She wanted to do that, but she wasn't capable enough. Mu Qianqian threw a dirty look at Chowga. "You just wait. I'll make you cry later." They traveled a few more kilometers, and were about to reach the middle of the woods. Sun Jingyu stopped. "Let's wait here," she said. Mu Qianqian was thrilled. She clenched her fists and gave Feng Wu and Chowga a taunting look. "It's so dangerous here." Ziling stepped onto a rock and looked into the valley nearby. "There are so many white-and lion elephants down there." Chowga asked curiously, "Isn't that a good thing?" Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian were both amazed by her question. "Gosh, there are so many of them." Chowga looked to the northeast and saw a large pack of white-and lion elephants in the valley. That place looked like their natural habitat. That must be where all the white-and lion elephants came from. Just then they heard a loud noise. Boom! That was... "The white-and lion elephants are coming!" Ziling shouted. "It's a pair of them." Chowga said, "Just two? Why are you so afraid?" Ziling was perplexed, but it then occurred to her. Chowga is a good cultivator, at least better than I am. And there's Jingyu as well. Chapter 2544 Take Action 2. Chapter 2544 Take Action 2. Ziling didn't see Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian when she turned around, and she panicked a little. Where did they go? Chowga said, "They can go wherever they want. We're better off without them." They were still talking when two white lion elephants noticed them. Feng Wu was about to make a move when Chowga stopped her. "Xiao Wu," said Chowga, "can you wait until I can't hold them back anymore?" Feng Wu said, "All right." Chowga had been making rapid progress lately, and she needed the practice before she made any more breakthroughs. Feng Wu handed her fire dragon rod to Chowga. It was the same weapon she had used to beat up the Gu brothers, but she preferred her sword, so she gave the rod to Chowga. "Wow, the fire dragon rod." Ziling was thrilled. Feng Wu asked, "Do you know what it is?" Ziling said, "Of course. It's ranked the third most effective weapon in its category. It's worth at least millions of gold coins." She stared at Feng Wu in disbelief, and couldn't imagine how rich the latter had to be. Ziling looked at Chowga expectantly, wondering how excited the latter had to be. To her surprise, Chowga wasn't excited. She only picked up the rod and shouted, "Xiao Wu, just wait and see." Whoosh! She charged at the animals with the rod in her hand. Chowga had learned her moves from Unflower. Unflower's moves were as elegant as dancing flowers. But Chowga's moves were much more forceful. "Watch out!" Ziling saw the two white-and lion elephants charge at Chowga. Although Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian were headed Chowga's way, they didn't show any intention to help her. Grinding her teeth, Ziling grabbed her weapon and charged at the beasts. She stopped one of the white-and lion elephants, so that Chowga didn't need to fight two at a time. How ridiculous! Mu Qianqian smirked. "I didn't know that she was so stupid." Sun Jingyu snorted. "She has a death wish, so let's fulfill it for her." Mu Qianqian was glad when she saw Ziling's reaction. It made her feel that she had chosen the right side. Ziling, on the other hand, was stupid enough to side with the two new students. A 5-member team could only handle 2 white-and lion elephants at a time, but now, those 3 people were all on their own. Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian gloated at their predicament. Thump! Chowga leaped high into the air and smashed down with the fire dragon rod. Both Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian were convinced that she was going to fail. They believed that she was going to be trampled. To their surprise, when Chowga charged at the white-and lion elephant from above, the animal stopped moving as if it was frozen. That was the effect of the fire dragon rod. It could slow down all living creatures in its range. The white-and lion elephant had never felt like this before. And Chowga took advantage of that pause. Chapter 2545 Take Action 3. Chapter 2545 Take Action 3. Thump! The fire dragon rod smashed onto the animal's head. Mu Qianqian's eyes widened. Because Duan Chaoga, the new student, killed a whitened lion elephant with one strike. Mu Qianqian could never do that all by herself. But she didn't want to admit that Chaoga was better than she was. To her astonishment, Chaoga was already charging at the other whitened lion elephant. Meanwhile, Ziling was being chased around by the whitened lion elephant. Chaoga leaped into the air again. While the whitened lion elephant was slowed down by the fire dragon rod, she hit it on the head. Poof! Its head exploded, and the beast fell into a heap on the ground. Mu Qianqian was astonished. She involuntarily grabbed Sun Jingyu's hand. Jingyu, look. Chaoga's reaction was beyond her imagination. Sun Jingyu smirked. She only killed 2 beasts. It's not a big deal. Ziling was amazed. She knew that Chaoga was better than she was, but she never expected that with the help of the fire dragon rod, Chaoga could do such amazing things. She gave Chaoga a thumbs up. Chaoga, you're much better than any of the classy students. Mu Qianqian was displeased. Any of the classy students? What was that supposed to mean? 3 more whitened lion elephants arrived. Mu Qianqian smirked. She didn't believe that Chaoga could fight off all 3 fully developed beasts. Thump! Chaoga charged at the whitened lion elephants. Before they could make their move, she jumped up and struck one of them. Instinct told her that if she chose the whitened lion elephant that was at the front, the other 2 would immediately surround her. But if she chose the one at the rear, the other 2 would need time to react. Her instinct was correct. The 3rd whitened lion elephant didn't expect to become the first target, and its head cracked open before it had time to react. By the time the other 2 whitened lion elephants realized what had happened and came after Chaoga, Ziling had arrived with her sword, shouting, Chaoga, just like before. She stalled one of the beasts for Chaoga, who would come to help her after she killed the other one. After the first round, they worked even better together this time. Thump! Thump! Chaoga killed the 2 whitened lion elephants in less than a minute. Ziling was thrilled. She ran toward Chaoga and shouted, Chaoga, you're amazing. You killed 5 whitened lion elephants. Chaoga was perplexed. Is that a lot? Ziling said. It's not a lot, but it'll give you enough points. We hunt whitened lion elephants quite often, so I know how many beasts each team can kill on average. There are 300 teams in total, and killing 5 whitened lion elephants will put our team in the top 200. Ziling was an average student of Class E, and her team was usually ranked around 200. Chapter 2546 Take Action 4. Chapter 2546 Take Action 4. Chaoga said, so we can earn points, right? Ziling said, yes. We'll earn the minimum points when we're ranked higher than 200. Chaoga, you're so amazing. My previous teams had to fight a whole day and still couldn't kill 5 beasts. Chaoga was perplexed. But it's so easy. So easy. Mu Qianqian wanted to smack Chaoga on the head. Killing 5 white lion elephants could never be easy. She would never be able to do it on her own. She's just showing off, Mu Qianqian thought resentfully. Ziling idolized Chaoga. Chaoga, you did all that on your own, so you must be as capable as Mu Qianqian is. I can wait to see our final result. Mu Qianqian glared at Ziling. As capable as I am? Are you blind? I'm clearly much better. What? Do you have a second opinion? Chaoga glanced at her. Mu Qianqian smirked and wouldn't reply. Chaoga said, let's have a competition then. See which of us can hunt more white lion elephants. Mu Qianqian still wouldn't answer. Chaoga said, you don't have the guts to compete with me, but you won't admit that I'm better than you. I've never met anyone so pretentious. Mu Qianqian stomped her foot in frustration. You. Chaoga shook her head. What? Fight me then. All you ever do is snort. Do you think you're Zhuo Wan? Mu Qianqian was infuriated. She rolled up her sleeves. Bring it on. You can't intimidate me. 5 white lion elephants were coming their way. Chaoga glanced at Feng Wu. Somehow, she felt that someone was controlling the number of white lion elephants that could approach them. Could it be Xiaowu? Right now, Feng Wu was sitting on a rock with her eyes closed and her legs crossed. She was cultivating. Mu Qianqian followed Chaoga's gaze and saw Feng Wu on the rock. She smirked. Why are you looking at her? Do you think she can help you with hunting the white lion elephants? She's useless. Chaoga concluded that Mu Qianqian was an idiot. Sun Jingyu felt the same way as Mu Qianqian and sneered at Feng Wu as well. We're all here to hunt white lion elephants, but she's been sitting there ever since she arrived. Who does she think she is? That's just so arrogant. Sun Jingyu didn't like Feng Wu at all. If she knew how these white lion elephants were being controlled. Chaoga charged at the white lion elephants before Mu Qianqian could make a move. Mu Qianqian was scared. Each of the white lion elephants was 10 times bigger than she was. Normally, she couldn't run away fast enough. Are you scared? What a coward. Let me teach you how to hunt. No, you won't. Mu Qianqian was furious. Agitated by Chaoga's words, she grabbed her sword and charged out before Sun Jingyu could stop her. Thump! Chaoga ran away from the pack after she killed the first white lion elephant. Mu Qianqian just happened to run into the circle at that moment. Immediately, 4 white lion elephants surrounded her. Chapter 2547 More Action 1. Chapter 2547 More Action 1. Standing next to the 4 white lion elephants, Mu Qianqian looked as frail as a straw. The dead white lion elephant's blood had splashed everywhere. The smell agitated the 4 beasts, and they lost control. When Mu Qianqian arrived, they attacked her without hesitation. Ah! Mu Qianqian shouted in agony. She wanted to flee but was surrounded, and she wasn't capable enough to defeat them either. She was flustered and didn't know what to do. Chaoga took the chance to start knocking the beasts on the head with her fire dragon rod. Thump! 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 She killed all 5 white lion elephants in the end. Mu Qianqian was so frightened that her face was ghastly pale. Her clothes were disheveled, and she kept waving her hands around like a crazy person. Hey! Stop! Chaoga patted her on the shoulder. Only then did Mu Qianqian calm down. She looked at Chaoga in bewilderment, and was dumbfounded when she saw the dead white lion elephants around them. Did you do this? She glared at Chaoga. Chaoga raised her chin. Now you know how good I am. Mu Qianqian only yelled at her. You stole my white lion elephants. You're so disgusting. That's cheating. Chaoga was perplexed. She had saved Mu Qianqian, but the girl was accusing her of cheating. You're unbelievable. Chaoga started walking away from her. Mu Qianqian ran after her. Their attention was on me, which was why you could kill them all at once. You don't get to claim all the rewards. You should give me at least 2, no 3 crystal cores. I'm better than you. Chaoga rolled her eyes at Mu Qianqian. Talking to you is an insult to my intelligence. Mu Qianqian was going to chase Chaoga, but was stopped by Sun Jingyu's stern look. Recalling their plan, Mu Qianqian calmed down and snorted at Chaoga, who had turned her back on her. I'll live with your arrogance for now, because you'll be dead soon. Mu Qianqian went to Sun Jingyu's side and looked forward to what would happen next. We have 10 crystal cores already. Ziling took Chaoga's hands in excitement. We'll be ranked in the top 150 teams at least. Chaoga asked, can we rank that high? Ziling said, yes, it's relatively easy to be ranked between 100 and 200. It'll get more and more difficult to move up the rankings after that. Mu Qianqian smirked. I'll report you for cheating. Chaoga found her claim idiotic. She told Feng Wu, no matter what happens to her later, I won't help her. Xiao Wu, you should do the same. Feng Wu nodded. Why had she been cultivating since she arrived? It wasn't just for show. She had noticed that the forest had the purest spiritual essence. Since the white lion elephants had all gathered in this area, it meant that the spiritual essence was the densest here. That was why they had chosen to live in this spot. Feng Wu could feel her cultivation level rising as she sat there. Her capability had reached level 9 of the spiritual lord stage. Chapter 2548, More Action 2. Chapter 2548, More Action 2. Ordinary people couldn't imagine how difficult it was to advance from a level 9 spiritual lord to a spiritual king. Countless people had never been able to break that barrier. Feng Wu wanted to become a spiritual king as soon as possible, because Zhuo Qingwan was a level 1 spiritual king. Now that she was about to catch up with Zhuo Qingwan, she didn't want to waste a single minute. That was why she was so focused on her cultivation. She hadn't been able to find a way at first, but she had an epiphany when she saw the white lion elephant herd earlier. After circulating the spiritual essence through her energy channels, she felt everything clearing up. If one were to quantify it, she was 3% into completing the task. 3% wasn't much, but it was a start, and Feng Wu was happy with the progress. When Sun Jingyu saw Feng Wu nodding at Chaoga, after the latter suggested that they shouldn't help Mu Qianqian, she was speechless. She found their reaction ridiculous. How could that useless Feng Wu agree? She wasn't even as good as Duan Chaoga. Why did Sun Jingyu know that? Because she had been told that Feng Wu was even weaker than her maid, let alone Duan Chaoga. The news had spread in the War Academy. Most students didn't care much because Feng Wu was in Class E. That was too low a level for them to be concerned with. But all the students in Class E had heard the news. They believed that Feng Wu was useless. Mu Qianqian believed that Feng Wu was bluffing as well. But what they didn't know was that Feng Wu was so capable that she could control all the white lion elephants. That's so strange, said Mu Qianqian. The other white lion elephants should have run in our direction when they heard the sound of fighting. Where are they now? Sun Jingyu was perplexed as well. The beasts were coming in 3s or 5s, as if to train Chaoga. Was someone controlling them? How strange. Here they are. Mu Qianqian pointed at some white lion elephants in the distance. She was so excited that she took Sun Jingyu's hand. Look, they're coming, right? Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian had disappeared at first because they had gone to set up a trap. Yes, there they are. Sun Jingyu grinned maliciously. She couldn't wait to see how Feng Wu would react when 10 white lion elephants were charging at her. She wouldn't be able to sit there and cultivate anymore. Sun Jingyu had used a luring agent to attract the white lion elephant's attention, and she had sprinkled the same potion around the rock that Feng Wu was sitting on. That would lead the white lion elephants directly to Feng Wu. Sun Jingyu didn't dislike Feng Wu to the point of wanting to kill her, but her patron had paid her enough to persuade her otherwise. Mu Qianqian grinned when she saw the beasts charging at Feng Wu, but it baffled her when she saw that Feng Wu wasn't nervous. Why wasn't Duan Chaoga nervous? Even Ziling wasn't nervous. That was so strange. Wait. Chapter 2549 More Action 3. Chapter 2549 More Action 3. When the white lion elephants reached Feng Wu, they suddenly stopped and bowed to her, which amazed Mu Qianqian. What was wrong with these beasts? Mu Qianqian and Sun Jingyu looked at each other, and were both confused. What confused them even more was that the white lion elephants turned around. They were facing the opposite direction now. Boom! The white lion elephants glared at Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian. Sun Jingyu was speechless. So was Mu Qianqian. Their hearts sank and they had a bad feeling. They were right. The white lion elephants were charging at them now. How was that even possible? Sun Jingyu couldn't believe her eyes. Anyone would find it incredible, but it couldn't change the fact. The two of them couldn't change the white lion elephant's behavior. Soon, they were surrounded by over 20 beasts. Mu Qianqian almost lost her mind when she had to face 5 white lion elephants. Now there were 4 times that. She screamed and grabbed Sun Jingyu's hand. Jingyu, what's going on? Help me. Do something. Sun Jingyu was dumbfounded. She had used the potion so that the white lion elephants would attack Feng Wu. Why was this happening? She wanted to run. But where could she run to? She couldn't get away. They were both surrounded by white lion elephants. They had no choice but to fight. But there were so many of them. Sun Jingyu was filled with despair. Thump! A white lion elephant threw its trunk around Sun Jingyu's waist and tossed her into the air. Sun Jingyu rose and fell. She managed to flip around in midair and landed on the back of a white lion elephant. She wrapped her arms around it. No matter how violently it struggled, She wouldn't let go. Mu Qianqian copied her move. She jumped onto a white lion elephant and wouldn't let go of its head either. She shouted at Chowga, "Kill them now." Chowga glanced at her. "Didn't you say that I was cheating? You can have it all to yourself now." Mu Qianqian was almost in tears. She had no choice but to beg Chowga. "I shouldn't have said that. Help us now. Jingyu will owe you a favor. And that doesn't happen every day." "How condescending." Chowga shrugged. "Why do you think we need it?" She yawned as she spoke. "I've killed 10 white lion elephants. I'm tired. I need to take a break." She then lay down on a big rock to take a nap. Mu Qianqian was flustered. "Duan Chowga, I'm begging you. Do something. Kill these beasts. I don't want any crystal cores. You can have them all. Help." Things were getting out of hand. Mu Qianqian and Sun Jingyu could be killed at any moment. Sun Jingyu held a black object in her hand and hesitated. It was an explosive ball that had cost her several hundred points. She had been saving it until now. Chapter 2550 More Action 4. Chapter 2550 More Action 4. She couldn't delay any longer. Mu Qianqian jump. Sun Jingyu gave the final warning. Thump. She then threw the ball at the beasts. Boom. All the white lion elephants were injured. The more severely injured ones fell to the ground and screeched, and those with minor injuries angrily chased Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian. Chowga had to be a fool to miss such a great opportunity. She told Ziling, "Get the crystal cores." Ziling finally knew what to do. "I'm coming." But she was kind enough to ask, "What about Jingyu?" Chowga snapped. "They've lured quite a few white lion elephants away. The two of us would never be able to handle all of the beasts at once. If I'm right, they'll circle back soon. Do it now." Ziling didn't believe that Sun Jingyu would bring the white lion elephants back here. But she couldn't waste such a great chance. 15 white lion elephants were lying on the ground. 10 of them had been at the center of the explosion and had the most injuries. They were grumbling on the ground and couldn't get up. Chowga raised her fire dragon rod and killed each beast with a single blow to the head. Thump, thump, thump. Ziling followed her and picked up the crystal cores. They finished off all 15 injured white lion elephants in less than a minute. Meanwhile, Sun Jingyu and Mu Qianqian were still running. 10 beasts were chasing Sun Jingyu, and 5 were chasing Mu Qianqian. These beasts were injured as well, but they had been further away from the explosion, and their wounds were all superficial. Mu Qianqian ran very fast. She was also injured. Normally, she would be crying and want to give up, but with her life on the line, she ran as fast as she could. She had lost one shoe, but that didn't slow her down. However, she was getting tired, and the beasts were almost on her. She knew that she couldn't go on like this. If she didn't do something, she would die. She decided that she had to lure these white lion elephants back to where they came from and let Duan Chowga kill them. She took a U-turn and ran in the direction she had come from. Chowga was casually picking up the crystal cores when Mu Qianqian arrived. Damn it, Mu Qianqian thought. The white lion elephants should be charging at Duan Chowga and Feng Wu. But Sun Jingyu and I were surrounded instead. Not only that, Duan Chowga also collected all the crystal cores. Sun Jingyu spent so many points on that explosive ball. That was so frustrating. But she couldn't lash out at Duan Chowga. She still needed her help. She ran to Duan Chowga's side and cried, "Chowga, help me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done all those things. Please help me. We're on the same team." Ziling frowned at Mu Qianqian. Because Mu Qianqian hung out with Sun Jingyu, she was very picky about whom she befriended. She had always been arrogant toward all her classmates in Class E. Ziling had never seen her so flustered. Chapter 2551. Please 1. Chapter 2551. Please 1. Chowga. Ziling spoke in a pleading tone. Chowga smirked. "No, I'm not helping her. I'll kill the white lion elephants when she's dead." Ziling said. "But a team's points will be cancelled if a team member dies. The points will go to the next team on the rankings." "What? Why?" Chowga couldn't believe it. To protect the students, I guess? Ziling didn't know the answer either. But rules were rules. Fine. Chowga rolled her eyes at Mu Qianqian. Let the white lion elephants chase you, and I'll kill them. Mu Qianqian was exhausted. She wanted to lie down. But she knew that if she did so, Chowga would let the white lion elephants trample her. She let the white lion elephants chase her until Chowga killed them all. She was so tired that she passed out as soon as she lay on the ground. Meanwhile, Sun Jingyu was also being chased by white lion elephants. There were 10 beasts in total. She couldn't outrun them forever. And she wasn't capable enough to fight them. She couldn't run for much longer. She couldn't understand why she had to run away after using the explosive ball. They were on the same team, but Feng Wu could sit there and cultivate as if she wasn't affected at all. Sun Jingyu wouldn't let that happen. At that thought, she also did a U-turn. She decided that if she had to die, she would bring Feng Wu down with her. When she returned, she was surprised to find all the white lion elephants dead on the ground. All their heads had been smashed in, and the crystal cores had been gouged out. It had to be Duan Chowga's doing. Sun Jingyu was so frustrated. Why did this even happen? She glared at Chowga. Come here and help me. Chowga was sitting on a big rock with her legs crossed. She was chewing on a blade of grass and looked quite at ease. She only glanced at Sun Jingyu when she heard her. Then she began to hum a tune. Sun Jingyu was furious. She bellowed at Chowga. Duan Chowga, I'm ordering you as the president of Class E. Get down here and help me. Chowga ignored her. She even turned around and pretended not to see Sun Jingyu. Sun Jingyu couldn't believe it. She looked over her shoulder as she ran. Why wouldn't the beasts go after the others? She wasn't the only human here. For some reason, she felt that the white lion elephants hated her even more. Mu Qianqian, help me, she shouted. Mu Qianqian had woken up already. But when she heard Sun Jingyu, she pretended that she was still unconscious. Sun Jingyu was speechless. She could tell that the girl was awake. Her eyeballs were moving behind her eyelids. Mu Qianqian, you'll pay for this. Sun Jingyu thought resentfully. She tried to figure out a way to escape. Chapter 2552 Please 2. Chapter 2552 Please 2. She tried her best to lure the white lion elephants toward Feng Wu, but to no avail. The white lion elephants wouldn't go anywhere near Feng Wu. That was so strange. Roar. The white lion elephants roared and charged at Sun Jingyu. Her patron had paid her generously, but she valued her life even more. She decided that she could humiliate Feng Wu after she killed all the white lion elephants on her own. At that thought, she took out the last explosive ball and threw it at the white lion elephants. It exploded right away. Boom! Over half a dozen white lion elephants were severely injured and fell to the ground. Only 2 were still standing. Both of them chased Sun Jingyu. She was confident that she could kill 2 white lion elephants. While Sun Jingyu was fighting the 2 beasts, Chowga jumped into the air. The next second, she landed next to the severely injured white lion elephants and killed them all. She then dug out all the crystal cores. As a result, Sun Jingyu had used up her expensive explosive balls and only obtained 2 crystal cores in the end. She was furious when she saw what Chowga was doing. What are you doing? She shouted at her. I'm helping you. Didn't you just ask me for help? Chowga said innocently. Sun Jingyu didn't know what to say. She did do that, but that was before she used the explosive balls. She didn't need any help now. Chowga said, I killed all those white lion elephants for you. Shouldn't you be thanking me? Sun Jingyu said, Give me the crystal cores. Chowga said, You're not only scolding me, but you're also trying to rob my crystal cores. Sun Jingyu thought she was going to explode. She gave Chowga a stern look before she looked at Feng Wu. Filled with rage, she shouted at Feng Wu. What's the matter with you? You've been sitting there since we arrived. Who could do such a thing? That's out of line. Chowga frowned. She could stand it when Sun Jingyu yelled at her, but she wouldn't let anyone talk to Xiao Wu that way. Sun Jingyu lashed out at Feng Wu. Do you really think you're a big shot? You're just sitting there while the white lion elephants chase us around. Are you going to depend on Duan Chaoga like that from now on? She's not good enough to protect you. Feng Wu was at a critical moment in her cultivation and had closed all her senses to the outside world. Chaoga was angry. She shoved Sun Jingyu. What's that supposed to mean? Xiao Wu doesn't depend on anyone. Sun Jingyu just smirked. She didn't think that Feng Wu would be a problem, but she wasn't sure if she could handle Chaoga, because the girl was getting stronger as the hunt continued. Jingyu, you're amazing. Seeing that Sun Jingyu was safe, Mu Qianqian rose to her feet and ran to her side. Sun Jingyu didn't respond. Mu Qianqian went on. You're the best member in our team. If it hadn't been for you, the 30 white lion elephants would charge us all at once, and we would all be killed. She then held Sun Jingyu's arm and smiled obsequiously. Thank you for saving my life. Sun Jingyu rolled her eyes at Mu Qianqian, but accepted the flattery. Chapter 2553. Feng Wu is so capable. Chapter 2553. Feng Wu is so capable. Seeing that Sun Jingyu liked those words, Mu Qianqian was relieved. She still had to rely on Sun Jingyu in Class E and couldn't afford to offend her. Sun Jingyu looked arrogantly at Feng Wu. There was contempt in her eyes. She actually thinks that she's cultivating. How ridiculous. Mu Qianqian also gave Feng Wu an arrogant glance. She murmured, Chaoga has some skills, but Feng Wu is completely useless. She's been sitting there since we got here, and hasn't lifted a finger. Sun Jingyu's face darkened. Was she going to let Feng Wu go? Of course not. She gave Mu Qianqian a warning look. Mu Qianqian was scared, but she didn't dare defy Sun Jingyu, and gave her a nod. Mu Qianqian walked away, and Sun Jingyu gave Feng Wu a taunting look. She had used all her cards. If she still couldn't kill Feng Wu, there was nothing she could do. Before long, there was a rumbling noise. The ground shook. Chaoga frowned. What's that noise? Sun Jingyu knew the answer. She had asked Mu Qianqian to lure all the white lion elephants toward them. The entire pack. Sun Jingyu had used up her points to buy a potion that could drive the white lion elephants into a frenzied state. How many white lion elephants were there? 100? 200? No, there were at least 1,000 of them. The sound was so loud and it made one tremble. Gosh, that was crazy. Sun Jingyu beamed at Feng Wu. She had poured a bottle of adhesive down the slope when she had mocked Feng Wu. By now, it should have reached where Feng Wu was sitting and stuck her to the rock. Sun Jingyu wanted to laugh. She couldn't wait to see how Feng Wu was going to fight all the white lion elephants. She then ran in the other direction. Chaoga noticed her abnormal behavior. Why are you running? Stop. She ran after her. Sun Jingyu was the president of Class E, and was at least as capable as Chaoga. Therefore, Chaoga couldn't catch up with Sun Jingyu. Damn it! Chaoga was frustrated. I'll settle the score with you when we get back. But she chuckled. Sun Jingyu had thought that she could get away, but white lion elephants were coming her way as well. She almost ran into one of them. Shit! Sun Jingyu was a little flustered, but she reacted in time and turned around to run in a different direction. But she only managed to take a few steps. Chaoga didn't know if she should laugh or cry. She wanted to laugh because Sun Jingyu's way was blocked by white lion elephants again. She wanted to cry because white lion elephants were coming at them in all directions. Sun Jingyu screamed. How could this have happened? Why was she surrounded by white lion elephants? Was it Mu Qianqian's doing? Sun Jingyu couldn't think straight anymore. She didn't know who had set her up, and was on the verge of having a nervous breakdown. She couldn't handle 10 white lion elephants, let alone 1,000 of them. 1,000? I'm going to die. Sun Jingyu cried and regretted her decision. Chapter 2554, Untitled. Chapter 2554, Untitled. Why did she accept this mission? She was going to get herself killed. Sun Jingyu had never regretted her decision so much. Help! She panicked and started running around. But she had nowhere to go. White lion elephants ran toward her like an unstoppable tidal wave. Thump, thump, thump. Sun Jingyu was surrounded and severely injured. She couldn't last past 3 seconds. Thump. She was knocked away and fell to the ground. Chaoge and Ziling weren't doing much better. They kept falling back and couldn't hold on much longer. Fengwu finally opened her eyes. She sensed that she had completed 5% of her breakthrough. She didn't know if other people could feel it, but she could. It was a strange feeling. Fengwu moved. Fallen Star Swordplay. She activated the Fallen Star Swordplay and struck down. Her energy poured out like a wall of waves. Whoosh! The white lion elephants' heads were severed from their bodies when they made contact with the energy. Thump! 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 The heads fell to the ground. Gosh! Chaoge wasn't surprised by the scene. Because Ziling had seen how Fengwu had defeated Yi Han, she wasn't shocked either. Sun Jingyu was the astonished one. She was dumbfounded. 1, 2, 3. 10, 20, 30. The energy spread out from Fengwu at the center. All white lion elephants within reach had their heads chopped off. Holy crap! Sun Jingyu looked at Fengwu and felt as if she had been slapped. It hurt, but she grew excited. She was going to live. She wasn't going to die. Seeing that Chaoge and Ziling were running toward Fengwu, Sun Jingyu followed suit. She ran toward Fengwu as well. She didn't care about her dignity. She wanted to live. Chaoge frowned at Sun Jingyu. Didn't you just call Xiaowu useless? Why are you running to her side? Sun Jingyu ignored her and stood close to Fengwu. Chaoge said, "You're shameless." Sun Jingyu still wouldn't reply. The white lion elephants were shocked by Fengwu's first strike. Seeing that Fengwu didn't move, they charged at her again. Boom! Although Fengwu had killed dozens of white lion elephants, there were still a lot of them left. It was a terrifying scene. Sun Jingyu said in a shaky voice, "We should run. We can't fight 1,000 white lion elephants. We should retreat while Fengwu still has strength left. That way we may survive this." Sun Jingyu spoke anxiously to Fengwu. Ziling was anxious as well. There were so many white lion elephants. Normally, she would have to work with a teammate just to kill one of them. Chapter 2555, Fengwu the God won. Chapter 2555, Fengwu the God won. Both Sun Jingyu and Ziling gave Fengwu pleading looks, but Fengwu only looked straight ahead. The white lion elephants were rushing toward them. Sun Jingyu and Ziling turned pale. Fengwu struck out. Fallen Star Swordplay second stance. This time, she released even more energy. Whoosh! It spread out over 300 meters. This strike was 3 times more powerful than the first one. More white lion elephant heads fell to the ground. Oh my god! Sun Jingyu was astonished. Because it was such a terrifying scene. Fengwu had killed dozens of white lion elephants with one strike earlier, which was beyond Sun Jingyu's imagination. Had she just killed 100 beasts with one strike? Sun Jingyu did a count. Fengwu had killed 123 white lion elephants with this strike. Sun Jingyu wanted to kneel on the ground. She turned around and looked at Fengwu in disbelief. She couldn't believe that she had tried to kill Fengwu. She wanted to dig a hole in the ground and hide inside. That was such incredible power. What on earth was Fengwu's cultivation level? The blow was so hard that Sun Jingyu didn't want to speak. She wondered why she had turned Fengwu into her enemy. She didn't have a death wish. She took a few deep breaths to force herself to calm down. The white lion elephants were dumbfounded as well. Human teenagers came here to fight them all the time. But they had never been defeated like this, so the white lion elephants continued to live in this area. But this human girl was so terrifying. They decided that it was time to run. All the white lion elephants switched directions. "You're my points. Where do you think you're going?" Chaoge wouldn't let them run. "With Gu Xingyuan in this competition, we may not be the top team." Chaoge sounded concerned. Fengwu nodded and struck out again. Ground control. With that, the running white lion elephants were all frozen on the spot. Fallen Star Swordplay third stance. The sword shot up into the air and turned into a dragon. Roar! The dragon's roar resonated in the air. Whoosh! Nearly 1,000 white lion elephants were still standing. But they were all frozen on the spot when the dragon appeared. Whoosh! Heads fell on the ground and exploded one after another. Sun Jingyu couldn't see anything but sparks. She was so shocked that she swayed and almost passed out. She was filled with fear and reverence. She knew she had underestimated Feng Wu, but she didn't know that Feng Wu could be so incredibly powerful. How talented was she? She was probably good enough to graduate and even become a teacher in the academy, but she joined Class E instead. Not only that, she also concealed her true power. Moreover, she didn't react when other people provoked her. Sun Jingyu buried her face in her hands when she recalled what she had said to Feng Wu before, as well as her pathetic attempt to assassinate her. Feng Wu Sun Jingyu didn't know what to say. Chapter 2556. Feng Wu the God 2. Chapter 2556. Feng Wu the God 2. Feng Wu Sun Jingyu was so ashamed that she blushed and stuttered. Feng Wu only glanced at her. She didn't care about Sun Jingyu's attitude toward her. Chaoga was the smart one. She called for Ziling when she saw all the dead white lion elephants. Come here and help me collect the crystal cores. Ziling was also dumbfounded. She stared at Feng Wu and forgot how to blink. She had thought that Feng Wu wouldn't be much more powerful than Yi Han, but reality had slapped her in the face. Not much more powerful than Yi Han. Feng Wu was even better than students of Class A. Ziling. Chaoga called for Ziling again while the latter was still feeling dazed. Right. Sure. Only then did Ziling rush to her side to help her with the crystal cores. Picking them up was all she needed to do. Just pick them off the ground. Before, Ziling and her teammates had to risk their lives to kill one white lion elephant. But now, she could just pick up the crystal cores. She was both excited and bewildered. Sun Jingyu was a little embarrassed. Seeing that Feng Wu wouldn't talk to her, she said, I'll help them. There were crystal cores all over the ground. They almost didn't have enough time to pick up all of them. Comparisons could be so odious. Wait. Feng Wu raised her eyebrows. She felt that she could obtain energy from the crystal cores. She held one in her hand, and the crystal core crumbled after its energy was drained. She could sense that the energy in her dantian had increased a little. It wasn't enough to raise the percentage to 6%, but it was an increase. Feng Wu looked at the others. Can the crystal cores be used directly for cultivation? She directed the question at Sun Jingyu. Being the class president, she obviously knew better than the other students. Sun Jingyu shook her head. No, they can't. We can only use the crystal cores after the academy takes them away and refines them in a special way. The potions created can be used for cultivation. Really? Feng Wu was bewildered because she could use them directly. What she didn't know was that such a thing could only be done by people who had the Phoenix bloodline. They put all the crystal cores in a bag and brought them to Feng Wu. Feng Wu asked Sun Jingyu, usually, how many crystal cores do you need to be first? Sun Jingyu was the class president and had participated in events like these many times. 100 should have been enough, said Sun Jingyu. But Gu Xingyuan is here now, and to be honest, I assumed that he would be first. I see now that it'll be you. Feng Wu nodded and only said, let's go back. They walked in the direction they had come from. Sun Jingyu had led the team on their way here. She had been so confident that she would be the top student in Class E. But now, she stayed an arm's length behind Feng Wu and didn't dare say a word. She even walked behind Chaoga and next to Ziling. For them, the event was over, but for the other students, it had probably ended for them as well. It was just that they didn't know it yet. Mu Qianqian found a team after she ran away to get help. It was Gu Xingyuan's team. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.